The Northern Bruce Peninsula Advocates is comprised of approximately 1,500 property owners, taxpayers, constituents of this municipality. There is no membership. We are simply a number of people who care about the people of this community. We are not bullies or anarchists, as some have called us, nor are we a group who believes that governments of all types should not pass regulations that affect the use of private land, as erroneously written in the letter of opinion obtained by the municipality. We do believe the privileges that were granted and promised to us when we invested our hard-earned after-tax money should not be taken away from us. We are simply demonstrating our democratic rights to stand up and voice our opinion on matters that affect our private properties, our investments, our homes. We are hundreds of property owners who have had new restrictions and hazard zoning arbitrarily placed on our properties. We mobilized. We recognized that the proposed plan was flawed and armed ourselves with information. We consulted other municipal councils, our MPPs, other planners, solicitors, and the Ministry of Natural Resources. We read several government documents pertaining to municipal affairs, planning, septics, hazards, PSWs, other environmental reports, and many other documents. We hired a professional advocate who recognized that we were at a stalemate in discussions with the municipality and asked council to consider mediation with concerned property owners as a reasonable alternative. Mediation, as per 65 of the Planning Act, is an encouraged practice in order to settle disputes in respect of any planning matter before a decision is made. The municipality recommended a mediator who outlined the rules of mediation as per the accepted practice of that profession. Those rules and the mediator were approved by both the municipality and the professional advocate. No one ever asked to mediate behind closed doors. The concept of behind closed doors was introduced by the chair of the Biosphere Association in a letter to council in a continuing effort to influence council to pass the proposed restrictions on private property. We don't disrespect, nor do we not care about the environment. Many of us live here or own property here because of the beautiful environment. However, we were surprised at the level of involvement and influence by environmental groups such as the Biosphere and BPEG into municipal affairs affecting private property. People stand to lose their investments, life savings, retirement savings, and/or legacies to their children. Influence by these groups through letters and pressure to council was unwarranted, overstepping, and suspect. The devaluation of certain properties could raise the values on others. The devaluation of property through these environmental protections could make those properties more attractive to the conservation organizations who have been purchasing properties and not paying taxes on the peninsula for many years. The Biosphere encourages the purchase of these properties in their conservation and stewardship plan document. Uncovered public court documents and other facts introduced a level of double standard that further surprised us. How much devastation to the environment would be caused by tennis courts, a helicopter pad, a pavilion, or a marina? How does the installation of and regular cutting of non-native grass at roadsides encourage the growth of natural flora and protect wildlife habitat? It's one thing to have or desire these things. It's another to hold yourself out as being qualified and objective in influencing restrictions on others. A comprehensive zoning bylaw is a planning document which sets out restrictions on private property. The only people who should be involved with a planning document that affects private property are private property owners, those who are affected. Why did and do we continue to oppose the comprehensive zoning bylaws and associated hazards? Because, 1, it lacked transparency. Very few people knew of or understood the impact, and many still don't. 2, it was flawed and inaccurate. We were able to prove that the lines were inaccurate and that government guidelines were being abused in this proposal, such as advanced septic systems and setbacks on inland lakes. 3. It was full of inconsistencies. It was taken from another municipality and bears little resemblance to our current set of bylaws. 4. It was confusing. Every page from the current plan to the proposed was changed drastically, making it hard to compare in order to identify actual changes which were in the hundreds. 5. It was deceptive. Property owners were told not to worry about it, yet the mere fact that it went from 87 pages to 161 was critical. There were many new bylaws introduced, yet they were not identified to us. For example, 3.29, which says when there is a conflict, the most restrictive shall apply. Or 3.20, which included an almost full page of new bylaws just on inland lakes. 6. It hurt people. Many homes and properties were covered with hazards, and the planner told us that in those zones you can walk on it, you can sit on it, you can cross-country ski on it, but you can't build on it. Yet you still get to hold title to it. 7. There was no consultation with individuals that were directly affected, no opportunity to refute or come to a compromise. 8. It limits or eradicates the use of properties already approved for building. Some lots of record were being drastically changed. 9. It would devalue properties, and some people stood the chance of losing their capital with no compensation for their loss. New zoning identified on hazard mapping would send signals of concern to prospective buyers, mortgage, and insurance companies. 10. PSWs and accompanying setbacks are just now being disclosed to us, yet the M&R has told us they identified PSWs back in the late 80s. Properties have been bought and sold and built on without this knowledge. 11. It stands to affect every property owner in northern Bruce Peninsula. An MPAC representative at a council meeting earlier this year said that any change of use will affect the value. These are the numbers of properties that are substantially affected. 542 homes and cottages that are wholly or partially covered in EH, including new slope erosion hazard on clifftop properties and new inland lake hazards. 300 vacant lots and farms substantially covered in EH or PSW. 613 properties with or without dwellings affected by PSW setback restrictions, and 553 properties affected by wellhead and intake protection zone restrictions in Lions Head. That's a total of 2,008 seriously affected properties. Imagine how much taxes would need to be increased if all 2,008 properties had substantial assessment adjustments. And finally, 12, council would not mediate. Throughout the process, we continued to show good faith, asking time and again for council to meet with us to make a plan that works for everyone. Yet we have been misunderstood, misquoted, humiliated, and vilified by those who stand against us. Ultimately, passing a flawed bylaw will add additional stress, time, and cost to the municipality and constituents, because the only way to tweak it after passing is through lengthy and costly appeals and litigation. We, the Northern Bruce Peninsula Advocates, will not accept the loss of use and devaluation of our properties.